What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 12 of Sport Vitamins. Today we go again to the EuroLeague with another strength coach. He's the director of performance at CSKA Moscow, and his name is Kostas Chatzichristos. Welcome with us, Kostas.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's really an honor to have you on today. We had the chance to meet each other 1 month ago, and it was a great and super interesting dinner, great conversation with you. So
it was a good dinner as well. We had a good meal.
It was a great meal. It was a great meal, actually.
Good wine.
Amazing wine. You're right. With another strength coach that probably will be my guest in one of the future episodes, Rega Fernandez, strength coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv. So let's start this conversation, starting with your job title. What does it mean to be a director of performance?
Well, it can mean different things in different situations and different teams. For us, it means that basically I'm in between, let's say, the coaching staff and the medical staff. And I'm also in charge of the performance part of CSKA. I have an assistant that we take care of the players on a daily basis, Pasha Pavel Gerasimov, and things that need to be added on the team, like new technologies, different services that we might need in terms of nutrition, of consulting, and basically my role is, except that the actual training of the players and the day-to-day, is to coordinate and communicate what's going on between the medical staff, the performance staff, and the coaches. So it's kind of like it has a managerial part of in it. You have to be, you have to plan, you have to make reports, work with the stats, and also try to coordinate everybody. So guys are all the processes are in a good flow, and create the culture that we want to create in CSKA in everything that we do.
Great. So yeah, nowadays a lot of clubs, a lot of high-level clubs, they don't have, let's say, just strength coaches anymore. They have performance specialists, or again, like we just said, the director of performance.
Yeah, it has become a lot more complicated. It's all over the world, and all over the world, even in soccer, in the NBA. There's so many things going on in the teams, so many things that need to be coordinated. A lot of specialists that work for the benefit of the players. New technologies coming in, new positions filled. So it is it's a separate level of management. So it's the team management is one level, coaching is the other level. So the head coach plus his assistants, medical part is another level of management, and our part also needs to be managed, and somebody needs to put everything together. So teams have several hierarchy plans and hierarchy schemes, but the last few years we started seeing that need of creating a unified culture, and just to put everything together with the help of the technology and to create all the processes that will allow us to communicate better. So I think it's changing for sure. It's not only the names that change. It used to be fitness coach, which I absolutely hate because it reminds me of aerobics in the gym. And then it was strength and conditioning. Now it's performance specialist, coordinators, directors. So different teams have different names for basically the same thing sometimes. So.
Can we go a little bit more into details about how you have an integrated approach with such a high number of professionals in your staff?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how we do it. Obviously, some teams, every team has they have their own system, and some teams have a better system than others. Our system, let's say, is based on communication. We try to first of all, I have to explain that 15 contracts. So we have 15 players. Sometimes we have some younger guys coming in from the second team. So it's like 15 to 16 athletes that need to be catered for. In these athletes, you have subgroups. You have the people that, you have athletes that are playing many minutes. You have athletes that are injured, athletes that are coming back from injury. You have the younger players that they need to be developed. You have a lot of travel. So, you have different sub teams and then you have different professionals that they need to work with those different subgroups. And basically, my role is to coordinate all that. We use various means of communication, from a simple WhatsApp chat We have a asset monitoring system, which is called Asset Monitoring. It's a Canadian company, and we use that to store all of our data. And it creates it works kind of like a hub where everybody puts their information in there. And it's accessed by everyone. Medical staff informs about medical conditions, and we basically communicate every day, assigning roles and assigning time with the players, so who works with whom. And it kind of goes like this. It's a daily task. We don't plan so much long term because the conditions are changing by week, day by day. For example, you play a game, then you have two injured players. Then you have to plan for the next 2-3 days. The doctors take care of everything that has to do with examination, diagnosis. They bring in the results, we post them, we discuss them, and then we assign to the, depending on what kind of injury, we have 3 therapists and 2 doctors, 2 professionals that work basically with manual therapy and massage. And we just assign who works with whom and at what time, and we go through that. So yeah, this is basically, we're trying to form a common approach in terms of the methods that we use, and that's not easy because we have professionals that with different backgrounds, with different nationalities, different experiences. But I think that number one, honest communication between the staff members, and number 2, creating a common philosophy are the keys to success in any kind of group that involves more than 2 people. So communicating openly without second thoughts, not falling for the bandwagon effect, which the group thinking, which means that if, let's say, a senior person expresses an opinion, let's say, about an injury, so the doctor expresses, for example, his opinion about an injury, what kind of injury it is or what we should do, then everybody falls behind and they agree. And basically not putting everybody, basically people not expressing their opinions. And it has to be an open culture. It has to be a culture where it's allowed to disagree, maybe make a mistake in your judgment, but you should be allowed to communicate and then communicate to the coach what is actually going on, as hard as that truth may be. It's hard to step up to the coach and say your best player is out for X amount of time. You have critical games coming up. Everybody wants to win. And sometimes it's hard. And second, the unified philosophy allows for people to speak the same language in a sense, and not do contradicting things, and that also increases the trust from the players to whatever we do, and that's crucial, because if they don't trust you, they don't listen to you, and maybe you're the best coach in the world, or best rehab specialist, or best doctor. If you don't get the trust from the player, you better go out and write a book. To express your knowledge, you're not going to be able to affect them in a meaningful way in their careers and help them become better or become healed or whatever you have.
Super interesting. So also the athletes demand and expect this high standard, right?
Well, being also in CSKA was, which is one of the top clubs in Europe, you're by definition, people that are coming here expect very good, let's say, level of support. My thinking, and I always express it to everyone that is willing to listen, we should be the best in Europe. We should be one of the top clubs in the world, because we got the resources and we're positioned for that, but we need to work hard for that. And for sure, we have to give the players the best service that we can, the service that they deserve, because we demand everything from them. We demand that they play sick, that they win, that they travel, they don't sleep, but they have to perform at the best. Coach is pushing them because that's the way to win, basically. So we got to make sure that they got everything, that they get the best support for whatever they do, and they feel comfortable and secure that if something happens, we're with them, or if they come to CSKA, then they're going to play their best basketball because they get all the support. So that's our I'm not saying we're doing it. I don't want to sound arrogant, but that should be our goal. We are failing often. We are making mistakes. There are certain areas that we definitely need to improve, and we have a lot to learn. But with the mentalities, we try to do the best we can for the players.
And what's the relationship between the performance department and the coaching staff? How do you guys let the coaching staff know about your decisions, about your opinions, and what they should do, what they shouldn't do on the court with the players?
In our club, in this situation, we have a very good cooperation with Coach Tuvis, who is a very demanding coach. He's very hands-on with everything. He wants to know every detail about everything, which puts us in a position to be very, very organized and always ready, and be able to justify any decision that we're going to make. From let's say, for example, if we're discussing when the preseason should start, or why a player should be out, or when a player is coming back from injury, or why we pick a certain method to train people. I'm very, very lucky because although I didn't know Coach before we came to Moscow, he never actually intervened in my job. He always demanded to know what's going on, but in a very professional way. And we had some hard conversations. We had some disagreements, and they were all these disagreements were because Coach wanted the best. He wanted to know more about injuries, or he, let's say, was questioning some things that I was doing, but in a good way. He wanted to know more. And throughout this conversation, I think we built a very, very good relationship. There's mutual trust. I feel like a thing, and I'm always, I have no problem people be demanding, or even sometimes, I won't say aggressive, but put pressure. And I love pressure because this is the way you grow. If you have a coach that is always, the worst thing you can have in our business is to have somebody that is not interested. So whatever, do your weights over there, or whatever, do your warm up. Are you done? Great. Okay, bye. Not asking questions, or not valuing what you do. So I'm always grateful for the pressure, because it means that he cares. So and we established a good communication, and that's the key, I think, and I think we trust each other enough to work together.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's also the way to keep leveling up every single day.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can't handle the pressure, you better do something else. And I always, since I was a kid in whatever I was doing, I loved, inside me, I loved when people pressed me, challenged me. Either that was school, or that was when I was a player, or I like to do the hard part. I like to do something that is challenging, that is hard, that it's people say that you cannot do it, and just puts a fire in me. And people I think that especially for young coaches, they need to understand it, that when people pressure you and they put demands on you, it's not a personal attack. I always say, take things professional, don't take them personal. Unless you're attacked personally, somebody insults you, which is a different thing. But you want people around you that will pressure you, that you question you. And yes, it's okay to go home sometime and feel bad or feel angry, but that should be the fuel to try more, try to see where you were wrong. If you were wrong, if you were not wrong, you got to find a way to explain why you were not wrong, and try to find a way to present your case, and that will make you better in every aspect. So. Having an easy ride never made anybody great. Having an easy practice never made a player great. Going through your career with no problems, first of all, is utopic. Is never going to happen. But you should wish for hardships, and then you should wish that you are better. You were better. So that's my philosophy.
These are some good advice for all the coaches, all the strength coaches.
Absolutely. Don't get defensive. I've had so many attacks, let's say, quote unquote, and so many bang heads with coaches that I work with. Sometimes I was, there was misunderstandings, or I felt that they didn't understand, and I was wrongly attacked, let's say. But don't take it personal. Don't get defensive over the long term. Of course, you're going to get a little bit defensive. We're all humans. But use this to advance forward. The worst thing you can do is become defensive and start looking for scapegoats and try to pass on responsibility. And if you did something that was not optimal, it was not good, or it was wrong, just raise your hand, say it's my fault, bite the bullet, and move on. The worst thing you can do is become defensive and start blaming others and blaming circumstances, and just feeling grumpy and thinking, one day I'm going to leave and I'm going to show everybody. These are things that I think we all have thought about, but you got to advance through that.
And this level of pressure, for example, is something that you have always had, like from the very beginning when you had your first experience in the United States.
Yeah, I put the pressure on myself. Although I'm not I want, I want to believe I'm not an egomaniac. I want to believe others need to say that, but it was a good like drive to whatever I do to be good, and especially in this profession, I fell in love with it very early on, and I just wanted to be good. I just wanted to be knowledgeable. I couldn't leave gaps in what, the things that I didn't know, and I just wanted to do well. And me coming to the States for my master's degree. All of us that we come from Europe, or we're not from there, we're a little more competitive, we're more insecure, and I think we put a little more effort just because of that insecurity. We don't want to fall back from, let's say, the American students that they were raised there, they speak the language, they know the system, and it's just a drive that I'm going to prove that I'm as good as anybody out there. And then it became, I want to say I never competed with anybody in particular. I'm competing with myself. So we won the EuroLeague, and I just needed to win another one. And coach says the same thing. We just want to win. It's not, you never sit back in your glory or say, okay, now I have this good job and let's relax. It's just next project. And we're preparing good things also in the EuroLeague with these conferences and all that. We might talk a little bit later about that if you want. But basically the competition is with yourself, but in a healthy way. And just make sure if you don't reach that goal or you fail, that you're not too hard on yourself. Accept it. Let it be. Like the song says, you should not freak out or become this psychotic person that is always chasing something. Just you set goals. If you don't achieve them, okay, just see what happens, see why you failed, try again. But that should not make you go home at night and don't sleep. That's the fine balance between, I think, being ambitious and being driven, but also keeping the human side and just accept that sometimes you will not achieve, that sometimes you will fail, but that would be temporary.
Okay. So we just mentioned your experience in the United States. What kind of impact this experience have had on you and on your career, of course?
Well, it's simple because I separate my life in general between before I went to enjoy my master's degree in Texas and after. Before this experience and after, I was a totally different person for many reasons. One was, the least of them was the knowledge, the experiences that I got there. I was very lucky because I really worked and interacted with some great people, some great personalities. There were great coaches. Todd Wright, but he's not in the Clippers and at the Clippers. He's a strength coach there, and he acted like a mentor. It's kind of like a father figure for me. And there were a lot of other people, Dr. Edward Coyle, that he was my professor at the university, and a whole lot of people that opened my eyes to a different approach to life, to coaching, to career. And I was really fortunate, and all the other experiences that I was able to draw from that journey. It was a life-changing, and it still is. I still see the lessons that I learned back then in effect now.
Okay, and how important was for you to have a mentor like Todd Wright?
It was everything. I don't think I would have done much if I didn't have his guidance and his encouragement, and he always acted as a role model for me. And I was wondered, especially in the early days, of if when I had a problem, I was asking, what would Todd do? Many times I called him and said, "Wait, this happened. What do you think?" And he just directed the way. And it just so happened that he's a person that I came to bond, because it's not easy. Maybe you follow a good coach, you follow a good coach, and he becomes your mentor. Well, to become your mentor, you also have to appreciate the personality. But I believe that we matched, and I really appreciated the way he talked to players. It was a big. So the non-technical part, how you behave, how you talk, how you carry yourself, how you deal with adversity, was the biggest lessons, unspoken lessons. Just observed and kind of sucked it all in. And besides the fact that I learned a lot, besides the fact that he introduced me to Exos, and he actually arranged to be one of the first interns that they had back in the 2000s, and he also just suggested to Coach Dennis Felton in Georgia to hire me. Of course, I had to go through the process, but he was the one that he just bumped me up and accelerated everything. So I'm very grateful. Mentorship is a huge thing, and here in Europe we don't have that culture. And the way for a young coach to learn is from an experienced coach. That's the best way. That's the best way for organizations to secure some continuity in the programs. If you hire somebody that is good, then it just so makes sense to empower this somebody to bring more good people on board, teach them, so when he or she leaves, to have that continuity. And it's huge also for, let's say, if you become a mentor, you learn so much just by trying to teach other people. You can never know something until you teach it. And Todd was saying to us, because it was three of us, it was myself, Matt Herring, that later became the strength and conditioning coach for University of Florida and the Spurs, and he was also at Oklahoma State, and Andy Twellman, that runs a very successful training business in Austin, Texas. And Todd was always saying, I learned so much from you guys. And back then we didn't understand, because we always kept asking questions. Oh, Todd, why this, why that? And he said, he was kind of using the F word. No more questions. But he was forced to explain. And I found myself many times doing the same thing. I'm trying to force myself to explain something. And I say, I don't really know that at the level to explain. So it works both ways, but definitely for organizations, they do need to embrace that mentorship, internship part. And I don't think there's a better way. I think it's the only way, actually, for a young coach to learn. And we should be, all of us that we are in positions like you, that now you have a head position, we should be open to younger people. I was always open. I use this opportunity because I feel so grateful about that. So that I was given that opportunity, that it's only my duty to do exactly the same thing for other people. So my door is mostly open if you approach it the right way.
Yeah, this is very important. This is something that I always say also to other young coaches, like find a person that you want to look up to, find a mentor, and ask questions. If you have the chance, just shoot a message like I did with you last year. And the worst thing that can happen is that the guy won't answer you. But just shoot a message. Try to reach out to other people, other coaches.
Absolutely, and I'm very, because I was. You have to understand also that I come from a little bit different era. It was very hard to contact people, no internet or just fledgling internet, and nobody knew anything about nobody. You have to be suggested which coach to approach, and just to think about it, the way to find information of which school to apply, you have to go to a special, like I was in Athens, Greece, I had to go to Fulbright Foundation, which is a foundation in Greece, and get the big paper directory. It's just like a huge book, and just go in and find and write a letter. So now you just go online, see who is the strength coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv, and just say, the email is there, shoot it an email, say, hey, I'm such and such. I can go look you up on Google and see who you are. And it's pretty easy, maybe not pretty easy, but it's possible to find somebody that knows you to ask a couple of questions. So that's so much easier now. So that's a great tool for young coaches to use. They just need to use it right and approach the coaches in the right way and ask the right questions and just get it how to act and just respect their time. Just like we do it, I do it all the time. I try to respect people's times. When I talk to them and not bother them in a wrong way. But that's definitely the way to go. And if you get rejected, just like you say, worst thing is just, hey, he's just gonna, or she not gonna answer.
Exactly.
But you definitely have to find somebody. Yeah.
And which are the main differences between being a strength coach in the United States and being a strength coach in Europe? Like in general, and then specific for basketball?
Generally, I think that, so the biggest thing I find as the biggest difference is, there are several. One is that, let's say in America, in most cases, you have better facilities. You have better access to, easier access to technology. Organizations, especially if we talk about college and in the NBA. I was fortunate to work in two big colleges. One was the University of Texas, where I interned. I didn't have a position there. And the second was the University of Georgia. and of course, there's no comparison of the the resources that we had in our hands. The second is the opportunities to learn. Definitely more in the United States. It makes sense because it's a unified country, language is the same, culture is the same, easier to get to be able to approach people, but also a lot more quality people work in top organizations. And I don't know, maybe that would sound bad, but Europe has a lot to learn from it. That teams need to invest both in facilities and people. And good people, require, maybe more money or something like that. But definitely in America, it was easier to learn, much more resources. Europe also is challenging because you have to do your job with less, and we become more resourceful, and then we also we are more adaptable, less spoiled, I might say, in some cases. Also in Europe, you have to do more things because, let's say, your situation, you're the only one there. You don't have a nutritionist. Maybe you have one physical therapist. You don't have an assistant. You don't have a statistician. So you have to learn and do more. And in my case, coming from a smaller team that I was in Greece for a few years, Panionios, I did everything there. I come to CSKA and I have 4 more professionals to separate, to split the job. So you become better by doing more things. So you gather more experience. So that's a big case. And I don't have a direct experience in the NBA to be able to compare from personal experience, but from talking to people and visiting, definitely, basketball. In Europe, we do more. I think we have more time to train the players. Now with the EuroLeague is becoming kind of like the NBA, but I think the EuroLeague right now is something in culture and the way and the time they'll get with the players is something in between the NBA and the NCAA. So we do get the players. The players are professionals, but they have to report our practices. They know they have to lift, and we have more access maybe to them, and we definitely get to do more training from what I hear and from what I discuss with other colleagues. Obviously, in the NBA, they have much better facilities and more experts around them to help them solve problems, whereas we don't. We have quite some way to cover until we get there, I think.
Okay, and of course, we also have to develop some sort of creativity, because as you said, we need to do more with less. And but I'm
Absolutely,
also I'm also convinced that like creativity thrives within constraints, so
absolutely. It's easy to have a huge weight room and 3 assistants and everything is solved. In our situation, you find that you can do a great job by less means and be more resourceful. And also it's a lesson for training that you don't really like. I'm a big fan of basics and simple concepts. Not simple concept is different than simplicity. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you just do things that are dull or are very, let's say, unimaginative. But in my philosophy, for example, I don't like all this, super complex exercises or, data usage is very important. We use a lot, and we can talk about it later. But I'm not this person that I believe that you can find a solution for somebody's problem only looking to the numbers, or the more numbers you have, the better it is. It's actually worse if you look at the research. But yeah, you got to become resourceful and to become successful with less. Absolutely.
And what should we do in Europe as a category to bridge the gap and to level up?
Well, the first thing we have to do is kind of start talking between each other to kind of share our problems and raise let's say, a more unified voice as professionals, as a sector. And since we were talking this year in the summer, on the 4th and the 5th of July, maybe you heard from Luca or Reggie from Maccabi, is we are organizing in Athens, Greece, the first EuroLeague Strength Coaches Summit. And all 18 of us are gonna basically hold a conference and present to other coaches what we do, knowledge derived from day-to-day practice, and also find an opportunity for the first time to sit down and talk about it, talk about our problems, our common grounds, and what we can do to draw some more attention to our profession. And I think that that's one thing. The second thing is individually, each one of us, to try to influence first our coaches and then our managements with data and our work, that we need to invest more in facilities, to invest more in knowledge. And I think our head coaches are big allies, because they have the power with the management to kind of just make them invest a little bit more money and give more attention to us. And we're not just the people that do the warm up, and the players don't miraculously appear on the court, or they don't miraculously rehab from some injuries. So yeah, it's a lot to be done. The press could help. That's why I think if we unify and draw attention, for example, this summer, let's have some media coverage, and we just come out and say what we do and how important it is, and how we need to do more to support our players and support our teams and our sport at the end. And it's not an easy task, but we're making steps towards the right direction, I think, at least on the highest level that I'm fortunate to take part of. CSKA is willing to invest. I see other teams are moving forward. And most teams now in the Euro have two strength coaches, a head and an assistant, and only 2-3 years back that was rare. I think we were the only one that we were two the last 6 years, and now everybody has an assistant, and it's gonna grow a little bit. I think it's a matter of time, to be honest. I'm obviously optimistic, but we should definitely push. It's not gonna happen by itself.
And you just mentioned like the assistants. How many assistants do you have?
I have one assistant right now, and we were talking about getting an intern, but it didn't happen. But right now it's two people in the performance-CSKA part to deal with 15, 16 players.
Okay, and you guys like manage every day some of the best athletes in basketball in Europe. And what's your approach with these guys?
What do you mean, like approach in terms of philosophy, or?
Yeah, in terms of philosophy, and then a little bit more into details about exactly what you guys do on a daily basis with these players.
Look, the approach is obviously always to establish trust, and I keep coming back to that. And that is established by various means. First of all, caring about them, caring about their their life, how they're doing, if they're okay. Asking about the families, genuinely be interested in their lives, and then always be there for them. I have this philosophy, and we strictly, this is our rule in CSKA, that there's never, if the players ask something, there's never a no, or I can't do it, or if he wants, somebody needs an early morning practice, he'll get it. If he wants an in practice, he'll get it. We're there to support. We're there to be interested in solving every problem. If they have an injury, that they have questions, we're there to provide all the information, to call their doctor. So we make sure we try, and I hope that we're achieving it, to make them feel that we are the people that will take care of them, that we are there for them first, and then we are coaches, because we have those two hats. And players, especially at that level, are a little bit skeptical with the coaches, because I have direct access to the head coach. So they need to know that whatever they tell me, I don't directly go and report to the head coach, and I got to make sure that the head coach knows that I'm honest and that I don't hold back anything from him. So it's a delicate position to have, and you have to filter and be honest. And sometimes you come in a difficult spot, because you have to choose, or you have to choose the way, I like to say, how to break back news. And but the players definitely need to know that they can trust you. And like I said, if you don't get the trust, then anything that you know won't be able to be applied to the player. The player just will be reluctant to try new things, to follow your advice, because a lot of people come with preconceived notions, and they have their habits, they have whatever they learned in their past, and sometimes we try to change that. For example, somebody's not used to lifting a lot, and lifting in our program is a big part of what we do. So you just can't say to someone, hey, you need to lift, you got to be here at 10 o'clock, so here's your program, do it. It doesn't work like that, especially with these guys. And that's the biggest thing, is to find a way how to approach each one individually, because we have 15 different personalities, and you cannot have the same approach to everybody. You do have a culture that, for example, for us, if you're in CSKA, you're lifting. And I keep coming back to lifting. There's other things. It's not the only thing, but it's something that they all understand, that everybody understands. So there's no question if. It's just a question when. And let's find a program that suits you. So it's everything, of course, is individualized, because, like I mentioned before, we have so many different types of players. And I'm not going to try to Olympic lift with a veteran that never Olympic lifted before. You know, it's counterproductive, unless he's willing to do it and he's asking for it, and that's great. But you have to find a way to communicate, see what their values are, because not everybody has the same values. Not everybody is driven by the same things, and so you can't give the same speech to everybody. For example, you have to find a way to approach each individual separately and just get them on board. And the best way to do it is to explain and try to, just really analyze what you're trying to do and how this thing is going to benefit them. So Mark Verstegen at X used to say motivation through education, and that's huge. That just sums it up.
Which are the common traits that these athletes have?
Common traits. They're all of them, I would say, driven, very strong personalities, and otherwise they wouldn't be in this level. A little bit insecure, even the really good ones, and people that you think that would be very self-assured, and it's absolutely normal, because these guys are being judged every night. They go step on the court, they're being judged. They're being judged by the coach, they're being judged by the media, by the fans, and although some of them are very, very strong characters, there's big egos, but you cannot be a star at that level without having a big ego. I think that I have seen very few players being superstars and being like humble, and you have to have some fire in you, and I deeply respect that. And I'm so grateful that I'm around people like that with such strong personalities, especially being leaders on the court. But this I would say are the common traits. Of course, you get different types of personalities in the team, and it doesn't mean that everybody is a strong character. You get different types of personalities, like I said, but it's hard to maintain a position at this level if you're not up for it, and you don't handle criticism well, and that won't fire you up to be better.
Do they expect you to work one-on-one with them, or you also work in a team environment? Nobody expects that, but we make sure to I do a lot of one-on-one, just because I want to give attention to the player, and I want to make sure that he gets the best coaching that he can. Nobody ever demanded it, but I know some guys don't like it because they get bored. Other guys enjoy it because they get the attention. It's like I said, you have to know who you're working with. But we do a lot of one-on-ones, especially in the rehab. When they're doing the rehab, and I don't think it can be done any other way at that point. And then during our regular lifts, we bring them in waves, let's say, in groups, different groups, not more than two. So you get 2-3 people at a time, so you're able to coach. It's 2 of us, so anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 people at any time, then it's doable. We've been together now for many years, so you don't need to really be on top and coaching absolutely everything, but coaching is obviously not about correcting. It's about inspiring. It's about motivating and getting through the bad days and the low energy days and all that. But I like one-on-ones. I like coaching in general. And I feel I caught myself many times, working with, let's say, players like Kostas Chatzichristos, Kirilenko, these type of guys, and working one-on-one with them. I said, look, I'm so lucky. I will enjoy that 1 hour that I have with these guys that are, this is the top of what they do. So I'm like a kid in the candy store. And what's your philosophy in the weight room? I mean, you mentioned before that it's not a matter if they're lifting; it's just a matter of when they're lifting, right? So I guess this is a
Yeah.
big part of your program, and let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
and the people, if you exclude a couple of guys that don't really like to lift, and we find a way to get the exercise that they're going to do and they're going to get the adaptations that we want them to get. Most guys want to lift. If it goes for, let's say, a short period of time, that's because of travel and frequent games, we don't get to lift. They will ask, hey, are we lifting anytime soon, or I'm coming tomorrow? And the way our schedule is, because we play games every 2 or 3 days, now it became like the NBA. We just have an individual chart and say we bring people in different hours. But yeah, it is a given that there's going to be an organized program for you that you have to follow on that day. You're going to get your paper. We use paper. I tried different electronic things, and I came back to paper. Players like it, they take it easy. Everything is stored in my computer for any other analysis that I want to make, or any other use that I want to have with these numbers that I collect. And but people will come in, we work. They have a structured program, and that is based on basically what we do is we have several types of lifting days. One is what I call the full lifting day. I call them heavy days, which is any lift that can happen after 2 days of a game and before 2 days from the next game. So I have 1 day to rest and before the lift, and 1 day to rest after the lift. So that would be my heavy day, which we're working pretty hard. I have 3-4 exercises that are our main exercises, and there are deadlifts, there are squats, split squats, any kind of variation of those things. And they're going to be loaded to 80 to 90%. We use gym aware with a lot of that, with a lot of these lifts, just to make sure that people are in the intensity we want to, and then they'll do the rest of their exercises. And on other days where it's like before a game or right after a game, it's going to be a lighter. It's going to be a lighter day. Still, it's going to have some intensity. There's no band work or 10 kilo step ups or things like that. But you're still going to get the intensity in, but it's going to be different style of exercises. Maybe more dumbbell work, maybe more complexes, and not so much heavy loading, especially on the legs, because these guys get a lot of stimulus on the court. So, and then we got the individual the work that goes on. People will come in each day, work on their weaknesses, or usually that is translated to former injury site or current injury sites. Somebody with an ankle sprain will do a lot of ankle work and hip work. We have a player that had a surgery in the shoulder in the summer, so we keep up always, trying to keep that shoulder mobile, balanced, and so on and so forth. Let's not get into technical things, but this is kind of how we design it. Everything goes into the athlete monitoring system. We know every month who lifted when, and we're able to kind of see if somebody didn't get a lot of work and they needed more, and just generally to track whatever we do. And we want to share it with everyone. So here's what we did in the weight room. And our programs are always available if somebody wants to check. And we go back and check and see if we did more of one thing and we need to add something else. Or it's always good to evaluate your work. I do that routinely. At the end of the month, I just look back and see, hey, what did we do? What did we accomplish? Go back to my gym aware software, check again numbers, improvements, problems, and just trying to get a better idea of what condition our players are in.
And how do you make sure to keep working even when you are on the road? Because with the EuroLeague schedule, you guys travel a lot. The EuroLeague is a grind, and sometimes, I mean, I know you guys have the blueprint, and you want to use your top-down approach, but sometimes you must use a bottom-up approach because you need to work with what you have. Maybe the hotel gym or the other team gives you the gym, and you need to work with that.
I tell you, usually when we're on the road, I have to train 1 or 2 players that won't play that night. So we always travel either 13 or 14, although we play with 12, just to make sure that if something happens, we have players to play and to sub. So hotel rooms, yes, it's a solution. But usually what I do when coach announces the final team and we have one player that is not playing, we're either going to lift. If I know the hotel and I know it has a good gym, then I'll bring them right before we depart, and have an hour workout. Or I'm just going to use the arena where we play. We just come out early and run sprints while the other players are warming up. And we just use those 40 minutes for a short workout. But I never had to train the whole team on the road. Our trips are not, we don't take a weekly trip on the road. It's going to be 2 days, 3 days. Occasionally we fly from one city to the next. So I have an intervening day, and then I might bring some people for lifting or just get a big room in the hotel and run a mobility workout, or just kind of, just get off I call it get off the plane workout. Just get people to move, activate, do our activation isometrics that we all do. But I never had to actually train. Preseason is a different story. Yes, we have been forced to do workouts in hotels, but that's just a couple of times a year. It's not so common. So people that stay back in Moscow train with my assistant, and so we keep everybody in a program. We keep everybody working basically.
Is also nutrition important for you?
It is. We are trying to build it into our system even better, and we're probably going to do some things next year. But yes, it is definitely very important, and it's in many levels. The obvious level is pre-workout, after-workout nutrition, during the game, electrolytes, carbs, what have you, proteins after the workouts, protein after the lifting. And that's something that pretty much now, when I was first starting, this was pretty much unknown. People didn't know a lot about sports. Pretty much common sense. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that have good products, and coaches are pretty well educated in the basics. We don't use a lot of. I go by what is research based, and what I mean research is like mainstream research. Not a big fan of experimentation with our players. And that's pretty much covered. What we need to do better is we need to kind of reach the NBA level of meal preparation. I know Milan has started this year. They have a kitchen, and they practice noon. They provide their lunch right after, which is a big step. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have with our, pre-travel meals or meals that we order out, and they're better quality, let's say. But the big thing that we have to intervene is we have to provide to our players better. Let's say, let me rephrase it. A lot of players find information about their nutrition on the internet. So I had many times people players come in and say, I quit eating meat because I read online that it's bad, and I give this as an example. I don't want to take a position on if it's bad or not. But whatever you do, you can find information on Google. And I love this sign that I saw on the internet, that don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree. I'm not a doctor, but I did study sports nutrition, exercise physiology at Texas. And you know what? If you have a question, let's discuss it. And yes, for sure I don't know it all, but it's much better. It's a much better point to start than search it online. So we need to have good professionals that are accessible are the go-to people for our players. And that has a huge impact, because I had, and I'm sure maybe you had, not a lot, but there are cases where players were playing badly. And then, after discussions and trying to figure out what's going on, you find out that, I just quit eating pasta and carbs because carbs are bad for you. And so you're a professional athlete. You're not excuse my expression, the average Joe out there with, you have special needs. You can't just cut something in a day and keep training, or just switch your nutrition in 180 degrees just in one day. If you want, you can hire a registered dietitian, or hire somebody that is really good at what they do, and just consult them and say, listen, as a position, I want to stop eating meat. Okay, fine. Let's design something that fits you, and you're going to become vegetarian, vegan, whatever. But don't do it on your own. So a big part of it would be to have these consultants around. preparing meals is the next step. I think it's a little further away, but this is something that we have to definitely do, because obviously nutrition is important, and also what you do at your house, at your home, it's more important than what you do in the gym. We have 4 hours. They have 24 hours. Is that 24-hour athlete concept, and we need to do a better job in being the source of information for these players. Sounds like a little strange, especially at this level, that people will do that, but that's what's happening.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about how do you make sure to keep improving as a coach?
Well, it's always a challenge. Many ways. I like to. First of all, I read a lot. I read a lot of articles. I read a lot of books. Try to, have. I try to read a series of articles of the same topics, of the same topic often, just to get more deeper knowledge. Lately, I find myself having the need to really know. To get a deeper knowledge on things like statistics, I just go in and if there's something I don't understand, I go and try to find information about a term and keep digging in as deep as I can. Reading is a big thing. Reading books that are outside of realm of expertise is huge, and I found that it helped me a lot. Lately, I've been reading a lot of books on psychology and how we think, how our brain works, how we make decisions, things like that. And I've recently been reading a book about psychological trauma, and it was shocking because there were so many things going on around me that I just didn't recognize until that time. In terms of players' behavior, for example, and I'm not saying that a player is problematic or is just dismissing people with some oversimplistic accusation, I would say, and it enlightened me in a way in seeing people differently. Looking up and trying to contact with coaches is another big thing. Using my experience and to raise more questions and try to explore those questions is another big way of learning. Experience is, I think, this is the driving force of learning, because you just if you go in with a question mindset, always questioning things, then your experience will reveal what you need to know, and then you have to do 2 things: who you can ask and what you can read. So that's how I think you find answers, and going to conferences also, and trying to find interesting professionals is a huge thing. It's a challenge though, because we don't have a lot of time. We play 10 months, so during those 10 months it's about reading and calling and exploring. And then you have roughly several days, because in those 2 months that we have to work with players. It's harder to get knowledge, and I would like to go back to school if I found the time. I hope I'm going to keep being employed consistently, but there's a part of me that I want to go back to school. I would like to know more about physical therapy and medicine and these types of knowledge fields.
Okay, Kostas, a lot of great information, and usually we finish off the episode with 3 rapid-fire questions.
Okay, let's go.
The first one, which is your go-to exercise in the weight room?
For myself or the players?
Both. Both.
Players, because I'm not a good example of being this great innovator for myself. But lately if I have to choose one, I'll do the deadlift on various forms.
Which is your professional dream?
My professional dream, to become as best as I can, to coach, to coach for many years and coach at the highest level.
And who's the athlete, not only basketball, that you would like to work with?
Who is the athlete, huh? I would like to, although I was a little bit around him, I'd love to spend a season or 2 or whatever with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's Greek. He happens to be Greek, so I knew him when he was younger. I interact with him a little bit. He actually comes and trains in our facility in the summer with his Milwaukee Bucks staff, with Suki Hobson, his strength coach. But he's a guy that I would love to coach. There's so many of them, and I'd love to see how he works and how he's around the team. He looks like a force of nature, both personality-wise and of course athletically. So it would be a great learning experience.
Okay, great. So a lot of our listeners are young strength coaches. So let's finish with this. Which nugget would you like to leave them with?
Learn, be humble, don't take it personal, learn from failure. That's it. And dream big dreams. And I'll add that because I always say that a lot of most people fail in life not because they aim high and they miss, they aim low and they make it. It's hard to achieve a small goal, and you feel great about yourself. So that's what I always wanted to do, and they stay in that middle and say, okay, that's good enough for me. And if you want to survive in this field, and if you want to make a living out of this field, you better be good, because there's a lot of competition, there's very few jobs, and it's not easy. And more importantly, you owe it to yourself to be the best you can. And it sounds like a corny, motivational, like Facebook banner, but this is the truth. If you're getting into this, you owe it to your players to be the best you can be. Because it's not about us, it's about them. And you need to make sure that you are worthy of them. And that's what I always say. I try repeating to myself every day. It's not about you, but you have to live up to these players. You don't disappoint them, and the way not to is to keep learning, to be resilient, to learn from your mistakes, keep your ego low, and dream. That's it.
Okay, great, awesome. Some great advice. I really appreciate your time. And thank you very much, Kostas.
Thank you for having me.
And then one last thing.
Thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, sure. One last thing, if our listeners want to follow you, where they can find you?
They can find me on Instagram I have an account with my name, Kostas Chatzichristos. I also have a website with that same name. I know it's a little hard to write, but it's Kostas Chatzichristos with a CH. You can look it up. Or go to the CSKA website and then look me up there. And in our world, it's easy to find people. So I like to post some content. I'm not this big maniac with Instagram. I'm more, preoccupied in coaching and doing other things. But there's our information out there, a lot of alerts on educational events and things that are happening around the strength and conditioning world. So, it might be interesting. Check it out.
Thank you very much again, Kostas.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.